Let's talk about the hereditary components of ADHD. I have clients come to me and tell me, Guillermo, I'm absolutely sure that it's ADHD what is ruining my life. My father has it. I grew up seeing him very disorganized, seeing him with lack of confidence, with anxiety, and I have it. So it must be genetic. Well, I have some news for you. There has been no discoveries about any genes that can cause ADHD yet. There is a group of genes, about 76 genes, that have been labeled as suspect genes. Scientists think those may be the ones causing ADHD. The problem is this has not been confirmed. We haven't found even a single one that we know for sure cause ADHD. They simply say, okay, ADHD must be real. Here are the genes that could cause it, because they're the genes dealing with the regulation of dopamine and with brain development. However, there is no proof at all that this is a genetic condition. So how do we explain that my father had the same difficulties or very similar difficulties than I did, and now I have them? Well, genetics are not the only way to transfer things from generation to generation. As a matter of fact, attitudes, models about seeing the world get passed from generation to generation. When we're children, we model the attitudes of our parents. And it's very normal that in a household where people have been very bad at managing money, their children learn to be really bad at managing money. I have seen it many times. So if you grow up in those conditions and you learn this is the right way to go about it, or if this is the only way you knew, you take it as a de facto thing that this is the way I deal with money. The same way, we model the attitudes of our parents and our colleagues and our peers, especially people that are important to us. And if your father had these difficulties and he was one of the most important people in your life, it's very likely that you're going to model those attitudes also. And that's how these can be transferred. A lot of things that I help people overcome have been things that they have modeled or been imprinted on by when they were children. And there's no genetic component of it. So until we cannot be certain if ADHD is real or not, we cannot label ourselves as having a mental disorder for something that may not exist. That's like believing in the leprechaun with the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow and making plans about your life, of how you're gonna get that money and spend it in your life. It doesn't make any sense. The same is here. How are you gonna live a life with those difficulties? We don't even know if it's real. And the hardest part of ADHD is the identification, the label, the diagnosis that I have ADHD. Because as soon as I label myself as someone who has ADHD, I'm an ADHD person, then I make it real. Everything that happens then is ADHD, right? As I explained before, I lock myself out of my house. Oh, it's ADHD. I have a lot in my head. I'm really busy. Then I forget to do things. Oh, it's ADHD. And I keep seeing all the evidence that could be a completely normal thing that could happen to anyone. I keep labeling as ADHD. I keep creating that label. It's ADHD. That creates an evidence that was there in place because of my belief that I have ADHD. But that evidence reinforces the belief to begin with that I have ADHD, which only helps create more evidence that I have ADHD, and that thus it becomes a real thing in my life. So what I propose is, instead of labeling yourself as someone who has a mental disorder of ADHD, just treat it as a bunch of symptoms. Do you have anxiety? Let's see, how is that anxiety? Where is it coming from? Are you disorganized? Let's see how the process of disorganization is happening. Do you have self-doubt? Do you have insecurities? Let's see all those symptoms. So I have helped lots of people overcome their difficulties with ADHD, their symptoms. And it's always really funny. It's always really suspicious to me that Everyone that comes with those difficulties, being ADHD or depression or OCD, they all have very distorted sense of identity. I always tell them, if you want me to believe that these things are real, let us first work on your sense of identity. Let us get you to a place where you feel really good enough, that you have, we heal your traumatic memories first, then we work on repairing that self-esteem, we work with those limiting beliefs, we get you to believe that you're something worthy, good enough, we get you to have an unconditional sense of self-worth, we get you really good, in a really good place. If you still have the symptoms of ADHD or OCD or whatever you're struggling with, after that, then I will start to believe that is real. But what happened always, I haven't had the first exception yet to this rule, is that when we work on their sense of identity and then we repair that sense of identity and they start feeling really good about themselves, then suddenly there are no symptoms anymore. The disorder disappears completely. So I propose you to work on that. Focus on symptoms and what are the drivers to those symptoms. What is causing those symptoms? Not on just labeling yourself that you have these or that, unless you can clearly have proof of that. And as we explored today, we have no proof that ADHD is real or that is genetically passed from generation to generation. Until we have that, it would be better to postpone that judgment and to take these as symptoms and find the drivers or the causes, the root cause of those symptoms. If you're someone who is struggling with ADHD, OCD, or any other disorder, you have difficulties in your life, these can be overcome. Go ahead and send me an email, visit my website, links are in the description. Me or one of my coaches can definitely help you overcome these difficulties.